Hello, good morning. This is Breakfast with Naga Manchetti and Ben Thompson.
Good morning to you. It's 7:30 now. Mike will have the sport with us very shortly, and of course Matt's going to have a longer weather looking ahead over the next few days around 7:45.
Now, Glenda Hoskins was just 43 years old when she was killed by her ex-boyfriend in 1996. It left behind her 3 children.
Victor Farrant was told by a judge that he would never be freed when he was sentenced for life, but just last month, Glenda's children were informed that he could be released because he's ill and can no longer receive treatment in prison.
Now, the family are appealing for him to remain behind bars, as our reporter Mac Treacy has been finding out.
For a time in 1996, this was one of Britain's most wanted men. Victor Farrant was the main suspect in the murder of accountant Glenda Hoskins in Port Solent. He was her former boyfriend. She had been held under the water in her bath. Her body was found by her teenage daughter, wrapped in a carpet in an upstairs room. Just weeks after the murder, her children spoke to the BBC.
When you go into a newsagent and you see it on all, the stands and whatever, it just seems like you're watching somebody else. Still doesn't really sink in. I don't know when it will.
Victor Farrant had only just come out of prison, having served half his sentence for rape, GBH and false imprisonment. And Glenda wasn't his only victim.
You may have read about it in the papers. Just before Christmas, Anne Fiddler was savagely attacked at her home in Eastleigh near Southampton. Then in February, and also on the Hampshire coast, Glenda Hoskins was found dead. Police say he seems charming, but don't go near him.
Victor had stolen Glenda's car and fled to the continent, but a tourist who'd seen the Crime Watch appeal spotted him. He was found guilty of murder and attempted murder. The judge that sentenced him said this murder was so terrible and you are so dangerous that in your case the sentence of life should mean just that.
We absolutely thought life meant life. We thought that while we still have to go through our lives without our mother, which is one thing that we still have to deal with every day, we did think we would never have to deal with him being let out.
But last week, one of Glenda's sons was contacted by probation officials who said their mother's murderer was being considered for release on health grounds.
We can only assume that if he's out, he could still be dangerous. I'm also just scared about him doing it again and about somebody else getting hurt and another family and another victim. And this is someone that hates women and has shown before that this is repeat behaviour.
The family have no details about what Victor Farrant's health condition is, but have appealed to the government to prevent his release. It's thought the case will be discussed by officials next month. Matt Treacy, BBC News.
Glenda's son, Iain Hoskins, joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
In your words, in whatever you're comfortable saying, you were 20 at the time your mum was murdered. Tell us about your mum. You also were aware of the relationship she had with Victor Farrant, and you had concerns as well. And then, obviously, the impact that her killing.
So she was very trusting. She was a mum first and foremost. She'd married and had children very, very young. And prior to this happening, she had separated from my father and had begun really a new chapter of her life, which was essentially finding herself again. I was away in university. My brother and sister were 13 and 15. They were pretty independent. So my mum was enjoying life, going out, meeting people, connecting with old friends, doing things that she'd never really done before, because she'd given so much to us in those early years. And yeah, it was at that time that she met Victor Farrant. Unbeknown to her, he was on parole and was going back to prison, but was basically telling her that he was an airline pilot and he was just jetting in for the weekend. Met her at a nightclub. I think in some ways she definitely fell for it. She was very naive and very trusting. But then partway through that, I think she realised something was wrong and things weren't as they seem. And as you mentioned before, I only met him once, which was Christmas Day. I'd come back from university and my mum had said, oh, by the way, there's going to be this guy. I was seeing him, I'm not now. And that was something that she did to be kind. She involved him in Christmas Day, even though it was awkward. And there was something very, very odd about him. Very, very odd. We were playing games at Christmas, and given the situation, if you're around a guest house, you join in and you. But there was a control, there was a intensity about him, a pettiness when you got a question wrong in one of the games. Of course, I wouldn't think that anything like this would have happened. I just thought he was a bit odd and a bit weird, and I told my mum that the following month when I spoke to her, which was probably the last time that I did speak to her, and she said, oh, don't worry, he's out the picture, he's gone. I did that as a little bit of a favour. Unbeknown to us, he was actually stalking her at that time, and he'd actually had attacked another woman and left her for dead.
Wow. And because you're the eldest of three.
Yes.
What impact did her death have on you and the family?
Brother and sister, and my sister found my mum. They were involved in all of that mystery as when they got home from school. Where was she? They thought she'd been kidnapped at first because her car was missing. Clothes were gone, things like that. Myself, I was in Liverpool at university. I returned home immediately. Again, I think those early days we were completely numb. It felt completely bewildering that this had happened. It didn't feel normal, didn't feel logical. The craziness of that situation just started to unfold in days and weeks that kind of went on. I'm not saying that things were kept from us, but really, even now we're finding out detail there that is absolutely shocking, that either we weren't told before, we were protected from, or we just didn't want to hear.
He was convicted and obviously sent to prison.
Yeah.
You were told that he would remain in jail for the rest of his life. What has happened now is that you have been told, you have been informed, that he is ill, can no longer receive the medical treatment he requires in prison. What implication has that made you what conclusion has that made you come to?
As you can appreciate, during all those sort of early years, all these different milestones, from my mum's funeral, which happened 2 months after her death, to him being on the run for 5 months, because that's what actually happened. He basically left the country. We didn't know whether he was going to come back for us. My brother and sister were absolutely petrified. My sister said she didn't sleep without the light on for 2 years afterwards, until the court case. And that felt like, after all these different things, that was the final thing. The judge had said, life means life, and in your instance, we would categorise you in the same group as Myra Hindley, Peter Sutcliffe, Ian Huntley, all these Category A prisoners that you should never, ever see release ever again. And that was the start of us being able to move on with our life. And that was the start of us being able to start afresh, not always having to look over our shoulder. This will never happen. And the other thing was, he'd already, at the time that he murdered my mum, had been inside for horrific crimes before then and received early parole. So for us to get a letter out the blue, which basically said, not that we're considering it, it's happening.
Well, I'll be clear, the Ministry of Justice has said there's no formal release application.
Well, we've been contacted by the Justice Department and have told us that this is happening. So basically said, not that we're considering it, it's happening.
Well, I'll be clear, the Ministry of Justice has said there's no formal release application.
Well, we've been contacted by the Justice Department and have told us that this is happening. So I think the quote that they gave was that it hasn't landed on their desk, but actually this is happening already. We've got emails from the Justice Department that have asked us specifically about exclusion zones. So that to me doesn't seem like a man that's on his deathbed. Exclusion zones, i.e. he can't make contact with us, can't make contact with my brother, who still lives in the area. So it's very, very worrying, because the detail is very, very vague. The information is slightly conflicting, and the goalposts often seem to be moving whoever we speak to at the Justice Department.
And quite aside from everything you've explained about the impact he's had on you and your family, do you think he still poses a risk if you were to be released?
So the parole officer at the time, when he first got released, said he was the most dangerous man that she'd ever encountered. And that's not just because of his crimes. It was because of the fact that he can fool people. He's very charming. He's a master manipulator. That's obviously how he charmed my mum. Given the nature of his crimes, the fact that he's shown no remorse whatsoever, when we went to trial, he pled not guilty. He put us through the biggest amount of personal pain that we potentially could have suffered during that trial. My brother and sister had to listen to detail that you'd never want them to be exposed to, ever. He could have avoided that by pleading guilty. 26 years on, again, this nature of how he's being released, I call it he's being released through the back door. There's no proper parole protocol, no psychological evaluations. I think it is incredibly reckless for him to be released this way, not just for our point of view and the suffering that we're going to go through, but because he is a psychopath and he has a history of murder, and we see no contrition from that whatsoever in any of the documents that we've seen.
It's not an easy time for you and your family. I thank you for coming on and talking to us about this, and I'm sorry you're going through this. But thank you, Iain, for talking to us. I just have to say what the Ministry of Justice has said,
Sure.
But thank you very much for joining us. Ministry of Justice spokesperson has said Glenda Hoskins' murder was a horrific crime, and our thoughts remain with her family and friends. Prisoners are only released on compassionate grounds in exceptional circumstances, following strict risk assessments, and no formal application, which you did clarify, Iain, has yet been made in this case. We'll keep following this story in this case throughout the coming weeks on BBC Breakfast.
Iain, thank you. Let's talk to Mike. He has all the sport for us this morning. Morning, Mike.
Morning.
Yes, thanks very much. Good morning. Well, the speculation in football is seemingly over. Liverpool now believe that Xabi Alonso, the man many thought and hoped indeed would take over